Hello my tarot friends, welcome. Today I decided to record a VR to Carrie's Mystical Musings, and I'm going to do the new community tarot tag called My Tarot Identity. I watched a few of these videos and I thought to myself, well, this is a fun tag to do, let me just do it. So here we are. And let's go through the questions. The first one is the deck that matches your outward aesthetic. Think home, decor, wardrobe, your style. I actually brought two decks out for this question. First one is the Craftfell Tarot, because this one represents my clothing style, I'm gonna say. And it's not about how people are clothed in this deck, but more about the whole deck. It's very vibrant, it's very bright, it's very bold. So I love colors and I love wearing colors and different patterns, and my partner often says that I have no style because I just wear, I don't know, pink and green together, or red and green, or blue and purple, or just three colors together. Or I often wear odd socks because, I don't know, I just like it. So yes, this deck definitely shows that side of my personality that I express through my dressing style that apparently is not really a style. But I'm gonna put a picture of someone who takes that style and makes it fashionable on the screen, and that is Jacob Collier. Shout out to any person who is watching this video who knows who he is, because he is an extremely talented musician that loves the same type of clothes that I do. So yes, you're gonna see the pictures and you're gonna get the gist of what I mean by the way I dress. So even like if you put a deck like this, you can probably understand what I meant by the clothing style and this deck. So the other deck that I brought out for this question is the Heartwood Tarot. Why? Because I also love very comfortable clothes, and my ideal home would look like a cottage, or very just like comfy, fireplace and lots of wood and like thick carpets, but very clean, thick carpets. And I'm not talking about the carpets that you put around the house as in hallways and stuff. I'm talking about rugs. Are they called rugs? I think they're called rugs. Anyway, but yeah, there's this comfortable, comfy feel. And also the clothes, like when I'm not wearing bright colors, I'm wearing lots of browns and greens and like, washed out colors, I'm gonna say. And the clothes are also very comfortable. To me, comfort is way more important than style or fashion, I'm gonna say. And it goes for my clothes, but it also goes to the environment I feel comfortable in. I hope I'm making any sense, but yeah. I talked about this deck before, how it reminds me of a cottage that my granny has deep, deep in the woods, in the middle of nowhere in my country, in Slovenia, and all you have is meadows and woods around and no other houses. So lots of animals come and visit, and this is another place that I feel very comfortable in. So I feel at home, I suppose. I hope this makes sense. So yes, this is another deck that I relate to this question. The next question we have is the deck that fits a hidden or guilty pleasure aesthetic you secretly love and rarely show. And I'm not gonna say it's about aesthetic, although I suppose it is. Like on one side, I like really comfortable, old school, like antique, I would say maybe, style of houses and things that feel old and have soul and lots of wood and stuff that I talked about before. But then on the other hand, I love modern houses as well, like very spacious, very minimalistic, very neat. I don't know. So this deck to me represents that side of what I like, but also it represents something else. So it's very modern, very neat, very, I don't know, it has lots of details, but in a very stylish way. It's really hard to put in words what I mean, but I suppose, considering that you guys read tarot, which is pictures, I suppose I don't need to use words for you to understand what I mean. And on the other hand, it also represents, because it's about guilty pleasure, right? To me, guilty pleasure is ancient aliens. And this deck is definitely that to me. Like, it talks about, I think that Emma tapped into something cosmic when she channeled this deck, because I believe she channeled this deck. And these beings that we see on the cards, I feel are ancient alien Egyptians. And I know there's a lot of controversy about who built the pyramids and if it was aliens or humans or both. But I don't know, it's just, to me, my huge guilty pleasure is exploring the ancient civilizations and the conspiracy theories about that, you know, that humans have been on a repeat, like the cycles, and then something comes after, I think, 12,000 years, and then it resets the humanity, and then it starts again. And this deck reminds me of that, especially the Tower cards. And I kept both Tower cards inside because one represents to me something that... Oh, there we go. See, there's aliens, right? Aliens coming. I mean, I think, this is my personal opinion and thoughts. I feel that Emma subconsciously got the information about this, and that's why this card manifested like it did, because she then also has another Tower card that is connected to a goddess, I think of destruction, if I remember correctly. So yeah, my guilty pleasure is definitely like dwelling and exploring and researching the ancient civilizations, extraterrestrial history, sightings, stories, proofs, because there are some proofs around the world. I mean, there are, but they are obviously the government. I mean, oh my God, there's so much I could go in right here, right now, but I'm not going to, because not all of you are interested in these things or believe in these things. But yeah, that's definitely my guilty pleasure, 100%. And there are not many people out there who are open to these theories and like to geek out about them, but I love that stuff. So this deck definitely represents that. Let me find the other Tower card. So here's the other Tower card that represents the goddess Sekhmet. And she embodies both creative and destructive forces, and she's featured in the spells of Book of Coming Forth by Day or the Book of the Dead many times. She's the goddess of fire, hunting, wild animals, death, war, violence, retribution, justice, magic, heaven and hell, plague, chaos, the desert's scorching midday sun, and medicine and healing. I mean, it is perfect for this card, let's be honest, because the tower happens and it's horrible and it's painful and it's, you know, chaotic, but at the same time, after it brings healing and things are actually meant for us unfold, if that makes sense. It's kind of like universe's intervention, because we didn't want to do something, the universe does it for us. So yeah, this deck is amazing, one of my favorite decks of all time. It's so good. I have a backup copy. Emma is going to launch a Kickstarter campaign for the second edition of this deck very soon. The pictures of the cards, as much as I saw, stay the same. It is the packaging, the book, the backs of the cards that are going to be changed. But I have a backup copy of this deck because it's just so incredible. Oh my gosh. The next question is the deck that totally matches your personality, and that is 100% the Heartcrafters Tarot. I didn't even have to think hard for this one because yeah, it's just everything that I am, I suppose. So I love nature, Mother Nature. I love the fact that it heals. I love the fact that it is soothing. And this deck is everything. So A, this is the Tarot deck, which is part of my personality. B, it's about herbs and plants, which is about my personality because I am a person that eats mostly plant-based diet. For example, this is a deck that is very witchy as well, which I am exploring that part of me of late. This deck is very deep, and I am not a surface type of person. I either have a really deep conversation with people, or I'd rather not having any conversations with people at all. This deck is very ancestral-like, and I love tapping into that energy as well. This deck is also very artistic, and I love art because this is all drawn by Prisma coloring pencils, if I remember correctly, which is, I mean, it's incredibly beautiful. It has a lot of colors that I adore, which are greens and blues and pinks. There's a lot of cooking and potion type of things going on here, which I also love, and lots of tea type of things going on. I love tea. I love herbal tea. Like, I adore it. I make my own mixtures of tea for teas. There are no people in this deck because I'm autistic, and although it's really weird, I love talking to people one-on-one, but I don't like being in groups of people. And yeah, this makes me feel very comfortable, and yeah, it represents me. Like, I like one-on-one, and you just have hands here, you know, in this deck, which kind of represent that, in my opinion. This deck allows me to just stop and think and go really deep within and explore the symbolism. And that's another thing that I am all about. I love exploring symbolism in the world, and what does it mean that we have birch trees here? What does it mean that we have different cups? What it means that we have these sticks here? There are a divination tool, actually. What does it mean that we have a square and the window and the book, and you know, all that stuff? That makes me so happy, and I love dwelling in the little details. You know, it's a very detailed deck, and I love that. I love exploring details. And it's also a very spiritual deck. For example, the Hierophant card and the cocoa and the cacao ceremony, and it's also liberating as well, and also very just, I'm gonna say, because it talks about, you know, people of the West, I'm gonna say, stealing the traditions of the indigenous peoples and using their sacred tools and not mindfully, and yeah, stuff like that. So I really am all about that as well. Like, my moon sign is Libra, so I'm all about that justice and fairness in the world, and it makes me really upset when things are unfair for people because of how the system in this world works, and institutional racism and all that stuff. So this deck talks about that too, which is really, really cool. Like, you look at it, you wouldn't think that that's what this deck talks about and goes into as well, but it does. And I love that about this deck. It doesn't shy away from the hard topics, which I love exploring. I love exploring shadow because I am a Scorpio rising, so yeah, that makes sense. And it's very spiritual as well. Like, at least the messages that you can get from this deck subconsciously can be very spiritual. For example, this Six of Earth I always see as like a manifestation type of card. For example, you write your thoughts, your ideas, your dreams on this, and you burn them. Or if you want to look at it from the negative side, the things that you want to let go of, you can also write on this piece of paper and then burn it away, you know. So yeah, I love this deck so much. It's like so close to my heart. The deck that represents a fun fact or something unique about you. And it's funny that I just said that, because yes, the next two decks I'm going to show you definitely represent that part of me that is unique. And I am a neurodivergent person. I am autistic. I only found out about this around 3 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago. So finding out you're autistic in your adulthood is challenging, at least, I'm gonna say. So anyway, why these two decks represent that part of me? Because my neurodivergent brain loves looking and assembling things and trying to understand things on a very deeper level and focusing on the details. And sometimes it is hard for me to see a bigger picture, I'm not gonna lie, and I just hang on to those little details in situations, in stories, in when I'm trying to learn things, in different aspects of my life, I'm just gonna say. So this deck definitely shows that part of me, my neurodivergent brain, you know. So yes, this is one, I suppose, unique thing about me, is that I think it's not just a unique thing about me, it's who I am. So technically I could put these two decks also the decks that represent me as a person, I suppose. But it is something that, you know, I'm not going to go and talk to everyone about. I'm saying it here in this space because I know a lot of you guys are also neurodivergent, and you probably will resonate with this. I recently did a review of both of these decks. They are incredible. I love them. From the bottom of my heart, they just give me that I feel understood using these two decks. And like when I go into the guidebook specifically and reading about all these details, it just releases serotonin. Is this the serotonin, the happy hormone? I'm not sure, but anyway, yeah. And there's another unique thing about me, I suppose, and my family that I'm gonna show you with the next deck. My family, or lots of members of my family, are very talented when it comes to art. Some would say that I'm also talented when it comes to art, although, yeah, I suppose I am. I don't know. I don't wanna say, yeah, I'm a great painter or I'm a great drawer. But I suppose, I mean, I had friends telling me, oh my gosh, you just draw your own deck because you are such a great illustrator, I suppose. But yeah, anyway, I chose this deck because we have beautiful old paintings in this deck. And so my granny, my aunt, my cousins, my sister, they're all amazing painters and sculptors and drawers, I suppose. Drawer sounds wrong. Like, isn't drawer something that is part of a wardrobe? They draw basically, you know, with pencils and coloring pencils or whatever. So yeah, this deck definitely represents that part of me. I am more of a drawer than a painter myself. I like using pencil, but I don't want to create a black and white deck, let's be honest. And also, I take forever. So it would take me like 15 years to create a deck, and I honestly don't have that time. So yes, this deck definitely represents that artistic part of me and my family. It's absolutely gorgeous. Oh, this is like my favorite Four of Cups card ever. This person here reminds me of, you know, Sisu, the last dragon, is it called? That's Sisu. Oh man, oh, and it shuffles like a dream. Look at that. And it smells so good. I love this deck. I don't use it enough, which is a shame. I need to start using this deck more. This is what happens when you have many decks. I feel like you forget that you have so many amazing decks and you're just thinking about the next new deck that is going to come your way. And then you end up not using your decks. And I feel like I'm at that space right now where I have a lot of beautiful, gorgeous decks, but I'm not using them enough. Next question. The deck that feels like your alter ego. Yeah. I went for the Dreams of Gaia Tarot. And why? I feel that my alter ego is starseedy. Does that make sense? Like, I feel in the world where I could just develop my psychic abilities to the maximum, I would be an amazing channeler and someone who could just tap into the energy of this being seamlessly and just live in this world of when I just walk around and read people's energy and aura. And I feel this deck represents that. Does that make sense? Like, I do believe I have these abilities already, but they're not developed to their maximum yet. Does that make sense? And I feel this deck represents like me when I am in my, you know, when in the Sailor Moon, when the people transform with their magic wands into their higher self, I'm gonna say, like their abilities all come through. Or in the Dragon Ball Z, when we have Goku, when he transforms in his, you know, the strongest part of him, I'm gonna say. I forgot the names for this. Like, it's been a long time since I watched that, so I don't remember what he's called when he transforms, but that's how I feel. If I could be in that mode, this is my alter ego. It's like this person here. Like, they feel like I feel this deck represents me at my highest level. And one thing I love about this deck is how many dragons it has, because I love dragons and I feel like I am connected to dragons through my heart space, and they speak to me and I speak to them and they help me, they guide me, and I feel in the world where I could be my alter ego, I would be in that state all the time. Like, I have to meditate and I have to consciously connect to them, to speak to them. But when I'm in my alter ego, I'll be able to do that seamlessly and all the time. And this deck represents that. It's definitely a deck that helps me tap into my highest psychic abilities, I'm going to say. So I love this deck so much. It is a bit different because of the system of the major arcana is a bit different. And also the minor arcana cards, some of them, you can't really connect them to the Rider-Waite-Smith interpretations, but some of them you can. Anyhow, this is a very intuitive deck for me as well. Like, I don't really need the guidebook, but I love the guidebook, so I use it because it's amazing. It's very, it's so funny because I feel the guidebook is very psychological, but the cards are very spiritual, so it connects psychology and spirituality together, which is amazing. And this is also two things about me that I adore. I adore spirituality and I adore psychology and human psyche. So yeah, the next one we have here is the deck that fits how you are as a bestie, so a best friend. Yeah, the role of oneness is 100% that. So as a friend, I feel people come to me for advice. They always have for some reason. Like, they would come to me and say, oh, what do you think? What is your advice? And I feel that the role of oneness really shows that. It's portrayed from the first perspective. It helps you just imagine the situation of your best friend, for example, or of your friends, to step into it and then give them advice from that perspective. Does that make sense? And also this deck is it's all about how everything, obviously it's called the role of oneness, so it talks about how everything is connected, what you put out comes back to you and all that stuff. So the values that I have about how the world is and how we as people should function in the world is very much aligned with the values that this deck has. Does that make sense? I hope I'm making any sense. So this deck is very gentle and encouraging, but it also doesn't shy away from telling you the things that you have to hear. So as a bestie, I'm not just gonna agree with you and say things that you want to hear. I'm gonna tell you things that you need to hear. Does that make sense? And this deck really does that in a very gentle and encouraging and beautiful way, and a very empathetic way, very just way, I'm gonna say. I always try to look, when it comes to situation and people and stuff, at both sides of the coin. So I don't just jump to conclusion. If the person comes to me, like my friend, and they say, oh, this person did this to me, I'm trying to also understand where they're coming from, the other side, and if they had reasons and all that, and what were their reasoning. And of course, it doesn't mean that they're right to do something, but it's just easier to come to conclusions if you think about both parts of the story. Does that make sense? So yeah, this deck does that to me anyway. So this is Tarot Oneness. Love this deck so much, one of my faves. Then next question, the deck that represents a place you'd love to live or a dream vacation. And that is for sure Tarot of the Witch's Garden, because it is so fucking gorgeous. Sorry, my language. Yeah, it's just so beautiful. Come on, let's be honest. So I'd love to live in, in just like this world. It's beautiful. It is, it's not just light. It's both. It's dark and light, which I love. It's magical. It's witchy. It's comforting. I love Natasha Linčić's drawing/painting style. It's just beautiful. And it makes me feel safe and secure and heard and understood. And I just love to live in these cards, for sure. I mean, even in the harder cards, I'd like to live. So, yeah, makes sense. It's very autumny as well, I'd say, and springy. Yeah, it has autumn-spring vibes to me, which I love. These are my two favorite seasons, are autumn and spring. If they are sunny. If it's raining, obviously not, but if it's sunny, for sure. I love this card so much. Love this deck, love the colors, love the world. Love this whole world, because it's the Witch's Garden, so it all happens in one place. So that's why I'd love to live in this place, in this Witch's Garden. Love it. Beautiful, gorgeous. The next question, we have the deck that brings out your creative side. And that is, for me, Magical Creatures Tarot, for sure. This deck is, again, like a fable world, but not a fable, more like, magical creatures world. And for sure, it makes me very creative, because I feel I could use these cards to write a story, really. And it also makes me creative because of the way how I read cards, or the way it shows specific symbology of the card in a different way. If that makes sense, like the fact that we have a unicorn and lion fighting here is so cool. I think I don't have to explain why this deck makes me creative. It's quite obvious, I feel. It just creates stories in my head, stories that are not human related. Writing stories about animals and magical creatures is creative in itself. And also the way that Linda decided to portray certain cards is creative. So just that makes me look at the cards from a different perspective, and that is, creative. That triggers creativity in my mind. It's just so beautiful as well. Oh my god. I showed this deck to my friend the other day, and she was like literally in awe, like, oh my god, it's gorgeous, it's so different. Her style is so special and recognizable, and it's just so cool. I love this Nine of Pentacles. Because look at that, we have so much abundance. We have apples on the trees and on the floor, and we have a snail here as well, which is something that I always look for in my Nine of Pentacles, so I love that. And the way she connects certain animals from the different cards together, it's also beautiful. Makes you think again, why, how can we connect those cards? Again, creativity. Oh, the Empress, love that card. So cute. The deck that represents a landscape in your dreams. So my dreaming world. And I chose the Lubanko Tarot for this. Why? You may think. Well, Why? It is because my dreams are quite trippy, let's be honest, and they're wild and they are very intense, which this deck is. Okay, so this deck to me is very balanced. This is a perfect card for it. It's very balanced in a way where you can look at the card if it is a light card or shadow card, and it can be both. I feel in tarot lots of the times we see a card and the way the author decides to portray the card is either light or dark, but in this deck specifically I feel most of the cards are portrayed in a way when you can see both light and dark in actual painting, if that makes sense. So why does this connect to my dreams? Because my dreams, I feel I have a dream and then I wake up and I think about it and I can always find light and shadow meanings in my dreams. Oh my god, I hope I'm making sense. And also they're very trippy, my dreams, and this deck is very, I don't know, it's just amazing. I love this deck. Oh man, I love this deck. So my dreams are very vivid and this deck is very vivid. I hope I'm making sense. It's really hard to put in words, and we have these beings that are not completely human like this one, and that happens a lot in my dreams. If you had to go into my dream, this is probably how it would look like this. One of my favorite moons of all time is just so gorgeous and beautiful. I did a whole walkthrough / review of this deck, and it is a very long review because it appears that I am really bad at making short reviews. I can not just go through the deck without saying a million things that the deck triggers in me. So I love this Chariot card. It's so powerful, so good. And I also really like the guidebook. Anyhow, this card makes me think of being lost in a dream as well. So yeah, this is the Lubunka Tarot mass market version. It is by Llewellyn, which actually kindly sent me this deck to review, which I'm very grateful for. And the last but not least question is the deck that represents your life currently. It could be your mood, your energy, the season of life in this moment. So at the moment, I'm really working on establishing my tarot business. So if you want to have a reading with me, please go into the description box below. You have a link there to my website where you can book a reading with me. Anyhow, and because I'm working on that, I am focusing on the decks that are really good decks to read for others, and also learn, like I'm always learning about new stuff in tarot, right? We always do that. We learn more and more and more. I feel like at least most of us really enjoy learning more about tarot every chance we get. But yes, what am I putting? Yeah, I'm just going to put them this way. It doesn't matter. These two are very different decks. So this one is very Rider-Waite-Smith. So you get the symbology of the Rider-Waite-Smith cards in this deck. So this is the Felt Tarot. And then on the other hand, so when you read for clients, it's really cool to have a deck that enables that, like just the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith, if you're a Rider-Waite-Smith person, symbology, right? Which at the moment in time, I really enjoy Rider-Waite-Smith and the hidden symbology and all that, because the tarot assembled and disassembled really allowed me to dwell into the details and into the symbology, and I just fell in love with the Rider-Waite-Smith more because of those two decks. Anyhow, this deck puts those symbols on the cards in a, let me go through the decks whilst I talk. Manages to put the symbols of the Rider-Waite-Smith on the cards in a very creative way. Also, the fact that it's made of felt is very comforting and really nice. And I love using this deck for reading for others. It's not as it is intuitive, but on the other hand, it allows you to focus on the symbols and what the symbols could represent in your client's life, right? And then on the other hand, we have the Fountain Tarot, which still obviously has the symbolism of what the card represents, right? But it is more intuitive because of the way it's portrayed, the way that, because it is very artistic, it is more of a mood, if that makes sense. It is just more intuitive in a way where I could channel more through this deck. So if I want to just go and focus on, I don't know, a person's ancestors or their spirit guides or someone or something on the other side of the veil that they want to talk to or ask the questions, I would go to decks that are more like this. But when it's more down-to-earth type of advice, I would go to a deck that is based in symbology. I hope I'm making sense. So anyhow, yeah, so I have like this 2 type of decks, then I would decide what the reading is about, right? So if a person is asking me about their job, I would probably go more towards this deck. But if they're asking me about something more introspective and deeper and something perhaps connected to the ancestors or their spirit guides trying to guide them in their life path or whatever, I'd lean more into decks that are like the Fountain Tarot. So more artistic, more moody, more cosmic-like. I hope you know what I'm trying to say here. Anyhow, so yeah, the biggest part of my life right now is focusing on establishing my tarot business and reading for clients and for others and learning more and more and more about tarot, which I always do, you know, but decks like this one or Tarot Disassembled really allow me that. And even just the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith, right? Which is funny, I was not a fan of generally. But since getting this deck and Tarot Assembled and Disassembled, I am starting to appreciate the Rider-Waite-Smith a lot. I think this was the last question. Yes, I think it was the last question. So I hope that I managed to explain my thoughts in a way where you understood them, because I struggle with that, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I feel if I could communicate telepathically and in pictures with people, it would be so much easier to me than using words. And it's not because English is my second language. I struggle more. You wouldn't believe this, but if I read for people, like, and I read for them in my language, I actually struggle way more in my language than I do in the English language, which is really odd. But I hope that you enjoyed this VR video. Thank you, Carrie from Carrie's Mystical Musings, for creating this deck. It was much fun to do. I hope that you have a wonderful morning, evening, midday, night, whenever and wherever you are on this beautiful planet Earth. And I will see you again soon. Bye bye.